Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer. In this video, I want to talk about authors that have hooked me with one book. And it's not their debut book necessarily, it could be any book in their catalogue. But I pick up a book for the first time from these authors, and from then on, I'm hooked on them. I want to read all their books. And in this video, it's only part one, because it happens to me quite often. So I can't list all the authors in the one video. So I'm hoping there'll be many more videos on this channel about authors that have hooked me after one book. The first is Ottessa Moshfegh, who hooked me after a book I read called Death in Her Hands. And I think it's her third book that she's written. I love this book so much. It was so different. It was so unique. The main character was just not strange, but just different. The way it's presented, the way it was written, it was so different, and you didn't know what was real, what wasn't in certain parts of the book. But it was such a good book, and it really drew me into the story so much very early on and kept me there for the whole book. I enjoyed it a lot, and from then on I've read a few more books from this author, and I do want to read every book she produces in the future. She's a very interesting writer in my view. She writes books that polarize readers. People seem to either hate them or really enjoy them. There doesn't seem to be much middle ground with her stories, and some of the things that happen in her stories, I suspect, are written for shock value. But there are different messages in her stories when you dive into them, and sometimes you have to really think about them to get those messages, but they're always there. Catriona Ward hooked me after I read Sundial. And I don't think Sundial is her first book. I may be wrong there. But from then, I read another book called The Last House on Needless Street. And I love that as well. And she has another book coming out in 2023. But Catriona Ward, I think, is one of the new voices in horror that I enjoy the most. I do like her writing style. I like the way she can pull a story along and not give everything away. She's very good at drawing you into the story and then giving little pieces away, but making you read them. You have to work for them. You have to really work to get the whole picture of her stories. And her characters are so well done. All her characters in all the books I've read so far are just believable. They feel so real. They feel like you can touch them. You know, they feel like characters that you can see picture in your mind when you read the book. And the way she just draws out her stories, the way she draws out her plots, I can't think of other authors who do it in quite the same way at the moment that I've read recently anyway. But I really enjoy Catriona Ward as a writer, and I'm hoping to read many more books from her in the future. Benjamin Stevenson hooked me after I read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, and to be honest, I read that book because of the title. It just seemed so interesting, the title itself, and the book was brilliant. I love the book so much, and it's a book where everything happens in a very small footprint, so a very small setting. And I do enjoy books that the author can use a very small setting to drive a whole story. But the characters in this book as well are written so well. It's based around a family, and a family doesn't trust each other, and certain things happen in the story with this family that are on a isolated setting in a ski resort in the mountains, and it's an Australian book as well, so it's set in Australia. But I enjoyed this book so much, and I want to go back and read his previous books. And I think this is the first book in a series, and the second book in the series comes out in 2023 maybe. So I do want to read that. And also, he's got another series where he's got 2 or 3 books in a previous series. So I do want to read those as well. So another author, an Australian author, that I do really enjoy. Shelley Burr hooked me after I read her debut book, Wake. This book was amazing. Everything about it. The setting is set in Australia. Shelley Burr is an Australian writer, and it's set in Australia, in rural Australia. And you feel the setting so much. You're transported there. The characters in this book are so well created, so well crafted, and you really become involved with the characters. You become involved with the whole story when you read this. You can't help it. I recommend this book a lot because it's such a great book. It's a mystery. People call it a crime noir, but I call it a mystery because the mystery in it is so well done, so well thought out and planned. I'm really looking forward to see what this author brings out in the future, because if she writes more books like this, I'm sure she'll just find a bigger audience that she's got already. And I do recommend the book because I think this book deserves a huge audience. Jonathan Stroud hooked me after I read The Screaming Staircase, which is the first book in the Lockwood & Co. series. I ended up reading the whole series, and I love every book in the series. He's a great author, I think, because he's very inventive. I mean, this book created a modern-day London, but with a big difference. But everything felt so real. And also the characters. The characters in these books, in this whole series, just feel so real as well. And he's a young adult author, but he creates books that are quite dark as well. Dark things do happen in these books, but he writes it in a way that's so gripping. The books are filled with so many different things. We've got adventure, we've got action, we've got suspense, we've got thriller elements going on, we've got mysteries. We've also got comedy through the books, a lot of humour through the books. And I don't know how he's able to blend everything so well, but he does. And it felt like every book in the series, the Lockwood & Co. series, was planned out from the start. And you just get a sense of that because they felt so well constructed and so well planned. That first book has just hooked me on this author, and I want to go back and read previous books he's written, because I think he's got another series he wrote before this series, and I think he's got 2 or 3 books in another series as well after Lockwood & Co., but I want to read all of them. The last author I'll mention in this video is Naomi Novik, and Naomi Novik hooked me after I read His Majesty's Dragon. It's the first book in the Temeraire series. It's a fantasy fiction series. I think there's 8 or so books in the series, but I've read, I think, 4 so far in that series, and I love them all. But she hooked me because she's so clever and inventive in her writing. It's set in historical times, and it's set in a time where England is at war with France. But it's set in historical times when there's dragons, and there's dragons used in warfare. But Naomi writes it in a way that everything feels so real. You're transported back in time, and you really feel like the dragons are really there. It's real. It's not imaginary. And that's the true power of this book. The dragon characters are brilliant. They are amazing characters. They all have different personalities. There's so many different types of dragons as well in the story. We're introduced to different countries and different attitudes to how to keep dragons, how to train them, how to look after them and care for them. And every country seems to have a different way of doing things. And that makes everything feel so real in this story as well. I enjoy these books so much. I need to finish the series or read up to what it's up to now, because I don't know if the series is finished or not. But I really enjoy the series, and I want to read everything that Naomi Novik writes in the future as well. There you have a handful of authors that have hooked me after one book. Of course, it doesn't mean I'll enjoy every book they write. It doesn't work like that. But they've just intrigued me and hooked me enough to want to invest time in reading their whole catalogue and keeping track of what they produce in the future. On my channel, I review books from all different genres. Check out my channel and subscribe. Also on the screen now is a link to a video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.